The International Institute for the Unification of Private Law, or UNIDROIT, is committed to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. Since 2010, UNIDROIT has developed a line of work specifically devoted to the crucial role private law can play in agricultural development. And it established partnerships with other intergovernmental organizations to leverage synergies and develop joint projects in this field. The projects and instruments seek to promote responsible contracting, access to finance and markets, and secure transactions through an enabling legal environment and best practices in contract farming relationships, responsible investment in agricultural land, optimal legal structure for smallholders and small, medium-sized agricultural enterprises, access to finance and markets for agricultural producers based on an enabling legal framework for warehouse receipt finance, access to resources, markets, and adapted finance schemes for agriculture mobile equipment. In close cooperation with Rome-based organizations, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, and the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, UNIDROIT has engaged in a number of joint projects, which include the preparation of a legal guide on contract farming, a legal guide on agricultural land investment contracts, and a more recent project on legal structure of agricultural enterprises. The legal guide on contract farming was developed jointly by UNIDROIT, FAO, IFAD, with support from internationally recognized legal experts, partner organizations, and representatives of the farming community and agribusiness. It was approved by the Committee on Food Security in 2014 and adopted by the UNIDROIT Governing Council in 2015. This guide promotes good practices between farmers and buyers of agricultural commodities by enhancing knowledge and awareness of the legal regime applicable to contract farming operations.
The practice of producing under a contract is used for a broad array of agricultural commodities in many parts of the world and is growing significantly in developing countries. Contract farming does not disrupt farmers' rights over the land and under enabling conditions can deliver substantial economic and social benefits to parties and to the community.
One key element of the success of contract farming arrangements is the capacity of the parties to build stable, commercially sound, and fair relationships based on clear commitments and mutual compliance supported by an enabling legal framework. The legal guide on contract farming provides detailed guidance on these relationships, including a discussion of legal issues and problems that may arise between the stakeholders. The guide is a useful tool and reference point for parties involved in contract farming practices, policy design, legal research, and capacity building. It can contribute to create a favorable, equitable, and sustainable environment for contract farming. Building upon the UNIDROIT principles of international commercial contracts and the UNIDROIT FAO IFAD legal guide on contract farming between 2017 and 2020, UNIDROIT prepared a legal guide on agricultural land investment contracts in collaboration with IFAD, FAO, and a group of experts. The ALIC guide discusses how these contracts may be drafted to effectively operationalize a number of international instruments, such as the voluntary guidelines on the responsible governance of tenure of land, fisheries, and forests in the context of national food security, and the principles for responsible investment in agriculture and food systems, as well as the United Nations guiding principles on business and human rights. The guide provides a framework that can be used when developing contracts, domestic policies, regulatory frameworks, and corporate social responsibility programs.
The guidance may be relevant to investments of different scales and to both domestic and foreign investors, and may be used by legal counsels involved in the leasing of agricultural land, whether from state, local community, or private party, to support capacity development within governments and to raise awareness among legitimate tenure right holders and local communities regarding their economic, social, and environmental rights.
As a natural follow-up from the UNIDROIT FAO IFAD legal guide on contract farming and the legal guide on agricultural land investment contracts, the third and most recent project of the UNIDROIT FAO IFAD partnership is related to legal structure of agricultural enterprises. By focusing on the private law aspects, contract law and corporate structures, the new project aims at determining their pros and cons of different business and organizational models for smallholders and small, medium-sized enterprises. The project will address optimal legal structure to improve access to market, increase the size and soundness of agricultural enterprises through contractual and company networks, ease access to critical resources and insurance to promote access to capital, know-how, and technology, and identify remedies for unfair commercial practices in agri-food activities. Major constraints for agricultural development include the lack of access to both finance and markets for agricultural producers, which in turn limits economic growth, particularly in developing countries and emerging markets. A well-functioning warehouse receipt system allows agricultural producers to access finance and to participate in commodity markets. An enabling legal framework is widely regarded as a prerequisite for a well-functioning warehouse receipt system. Yet, to date, many countries do not have enabling legislation in place. This prompted UNIDROIT in 2020, together with UNCITRAL, to adopt the joint project on developing a model law on warehouse receipts, with the aim to offer a state-of-the-art legislative model for adoption by countries seeking to reform their legislation. The model law is being prepared in close collaboration with the World Bank, FAO, and other intergovernmental organizations, and with support from internationally recognized experts and stakeholder representatives from around the globe.
The model law will help strengthening national legislation and increase international harmonization, which obviously facilitates cross-border transactions. An important focus is on integrating the use of new technologies.
The model law will contemplate the issuance and transfer of electronic warehouse receipts through electronic platforms, distributed ledger technology, and other mechanisms. This incorporation of technologies can greatly stimulate and facilitate market transactions and international trade. It enables participants to access real-time inventory data, execute instant transactions, and access a larger market. Additionally, UNIDROIT has developed instruments in the field of secured transactions that facilitate access to credit for agricultural enterprises. The 2001 Convention on International Interests in Mobile Equipment is one of the most successful international commercial law treaties in history. Commonly known as the Cape Town Convention, the treaty has been adopted by over 80 countries. The Cape Town Convention has established an international legal regime for the creation, enforcement, registration, and priority of security interests in high-value, uniquely identifiable mobile equipment. The fourth protocol to the Cape Town Convention extends the operation of the treaty to the mining, agriculture, and construction (MAC) sectors. Adopted in Pretoria, South Africa, in 2019, the MAC protocol will facilitate financing for $90 billion worth of MAC equipment in developing countries. By increasing access to agricultural equipment, the MAC protocol is predicted to increase global gross domestic product by $30 billion annually, 76% of which will benefit developing countries dependent on the agriculture sector. Over the past years, UNIDROIT has been participating in global efforts intended to create a better environment for agricultural development worldwide. Through different projects and instruments, UNIDROIT has been assisting stakeholders, especially smallholders and small and medium-sized agricultural enterprises, to overcome the challenges they face, such as access to finance and markets. Help us to bring more opportunities and inclusiveness to the agricultural sector by learning more about UNIDROIT's work and instruments in the area of private law and agricultural development on our website, www.unidroit.org.